This is how you make yerba mate from Argentina like an Argentinian. Now you might be thinking there's so many videos on how to make yerba mate, why do I need to watch another one? And the reason is because you're probably doing it all wrong. Not all yerba mate brands are built the same, so when it comes to yerba mate from Argentina, you need to understand that if your yerba looks like this, coarse cut, lots of large leaves and stems with very little dust, you don't have to worry about forming a mountain. In fact, most people in Argentina don't even do it. So then how do they make yerba mate there? Let me show you. We'll first start by warming up our water. Water temperature is one of the most critical things to a good mate. Most suggest heating your water to about 160 to 175 degrees Fahrenheit. For me personally, I recommend 140 to 170. Just make sure you never use boiling water, as it will extract the yerba way too fast and produce a harsh bitter taste, which we don't want. Now let's get to our equipment. First, you need a cup or gourd, also simply called a mate. In Argentina, mates made of calabash and wood are pretty common, but any material will do here. Today I'll be using our wooden mate made from carob wood. It's one of my favorite wooden mates and can be found on our website. Next, we'll need a bombilla or bombilla as it's pronounced in certain parts of Argentina. Again, any bombilla will work, especially since the Argentinian yerba is cut rather large. I'll be using a spoon bombilla, but in Argentina, from what I've seen, they tend to use the ones that have a spring or coil as a filter. But regardless of which one you choose, filtration should never be an issue. Now that we have everything set up, let's start by filling our mate halfway to 2/3 of yerba. Today I'll be using the brand Taragüí, which is a very popular Argentinian brand. And as you can see, the yerba has large leaves and stems with a fairly low amount of dust. Now once our mate is filled, we'll cover the top with our palm and we'll shake it at an angle. This step is important for 3 reasons. Number 1, it opens room for us to place in our bombilla. Number 2, it moves all the larger particles to the bottom for a better filtration, while bringing all the smaller particles to the top, which you'll see as some of the dust gets collected on my palm. And lastly, this step removes excess dust, as some Argentines like to do, as they believe it's bad for the stomach. If you don't like the dust, you can repeat this step several times. After shaking, you should end up with something like this, 1/2 with yerba and 1/2 empty. From here, we want to be careful and keep the mate at a 45-degree angle so that the yerba doesn't fall over. What I like to do is set it on my bombilla so it can stay propped up. Once it sits upright, we can pour in some water. Traditionally, room temperature water is used, as it's believed that using hot water right away can burn the leaves and ruin the flavor and nutrients of the yerba. However, when I make a mate for myself, I always use hot water so that the first pour doesn't come out lukewarm. When pouring in the water, you want to make sure you avoid wetting the slope of yerba you created. You only want the water to get on the opposite side, and we want to fill it to just under the level of the yerba. And we can let it steep for about 2 to 3 minutes. This allows the yerba to absorb the water and swell, which will make filtering it easier as the leaves become larger. When time's up, we can now take our bombilla and place it on the same side as the water. We want to position the filter so that it's pressed against the yerba and can rest firmly against the rim of the gourd like so. Now all that's left for us to do is fill the rest of it with hot water, making sure we only pour on the side of the bombilla. We'll pour just before we reach the top of the yerba to ensure that part stays dry. Before I explain why, let's take a sip. As you can see, it's working great. You can hear the slurp in the end, which means it's finished and is ready for another refill. Now regarding the dry yerba, the reason we only pour on one side is so we can make the mate last longer, as well as balance out the flavor. If we instead wet all the leaves at once, the infusion will become too strong and bitter, and can only be refilled maybe another 2 to 3 times. Now, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you prefer, but this is the reason why it's done this way. We keep refilling and pouring on the same spot until it runs out of flavor. Then we'll start wetting the rest of the yerba to bring it back to life, and that's all there is to it.